Hey guys, welcome to Synergy Nutrition and Lifestyle. My name is Natalie Brown. I am a holistic nutritionist, lifestyle and nutrition coach. I'm also a personal trainer and I help people create and sustain healthy habits to maintain for the rest of their life so that they can feel and look their best. And the first step to actually changing your life is creating a healthy kitchen. Okay, so that's what this PowerPoint is all about how to build your healthy kitchen, how to make it efficient for your lifestyle, and make healthy eating easy for you. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So the objectives today is to clean out your pantry, your fridge, your freezer, and replace them with healthier options. Okay, identify kitchen zones and a variety of foods that fit in them. Understand how to store a variety of food safely in different kitchen zones. Identify basic kitchen tools and how they can be used to prepare and store food. And you're going to learn a quick, easy way to prepare recipes. Okay, so Eric McAdams said, if you keep good food in your refrigerator, you will eat good food, period, end. It's just as simple as that. Okay, and that's what we're trying to get to right here. So how many food choices do you make every single day? Did you know that people actually make more than 200 decisions per day just about the food they eat? Okay, what you stock in your kitchen will affect your decisions, right? So let's break down breakfast. You have your eggs, fruit, yogurt, smoothie, oatmeal, veggies, coffee, tea, and it goes on and on between lunch, dinner, and snacks. There's so many different choices that you can make to eat healthy. And if you think about it, your environment, does it matter? Would keeping healthy foods on hand help in making healthy food choices? Yes, absolutely. Your environment is number one. It's the number one strategy to ensure success in your healthy habits. Okay, creating an environment that supports those healthy habits. Okay, that is why this is the first week in starting your lifestyle change. Okay, so out with the old and in with the healthy. Okay, so if you see any of these things in your cabinet, throw them away. All right, good rule of thumb with anything, if you look on the ingredients of anything in your cabinet and if you see an ingredient that you don't recognize or you don't know what it is, then it does not belong in your body and you need to throw it away. Okay, throw out salted, smoked, or flavored nuts. They come with preservatives, and if you want those salted flavored nuts, you can make them yourself, but we're going to go with raw, unsalted, and unflavored nuts from now on. Any kind of white bread, processed bread, so you have your pasta, your crackers, your cereals full of sugar and preservatives and dyes and colors, pretzels, chips, pancake mixes, throw them out. We're going to go all whole grain versions. Okay, your instant cereals, those really awesome oatmeal packets that you find in a box, throw them out. Whole grain rolled and steel cut oats or ancient grains is where we're going to go now. You got your quinoa. Any marinades, salad dressings, bottled sauces, gravies, you can make your own. You'll learn as the 12 weeks go on that you can make your own vinaigrettes. You utilize a lot of spices that you've never used before to make this stuff. You can make your own nut butters, and we're going to use oil in its natural form. Okay, canned vegetables, toss them out. You have no idea how long those veggies have been sitting in that can on that shelf. I guarantee it's been at least 9 months until it gets into your pantry. Okay, it's full of salt, it's full of preservatives in order to maintain its color. Okay, we're going fresh produce. Things that can go bad belong in your body. Okay, that goes along with canned and boxed soups. Same thing. We can make our own soup. And if it goes bad, then it's in your body. Okay, so nut butters, you don't want any kind of nut butters with any added ingredients. So look on your peanut butter, look on your almond butter, look on whatever butters you have. And if it has any kind of palm oil, or sugars, cane sugar, whatever you see on there. If it's not just nuts, throw it out. Okay, cookies, throw them out. You have fresh fruit now from now on. Okay, real food is the only thing that needs to be on your body. And we're going to go over this a little bit later, but make your kitchen make sense. Okay, have a specific area for your smoothies. If you do make smoothies, a cutting produce area, a coffee area, a cooking area, a baking area, everything needs to have its place and it needs to be organized in a way that makes sense. Okay, you don't want to travel back and forth and back and forth. Put your seasonings around your stove because that's where you're going to be seasoning your food. Put your cutting utensils, but with your cutting boards, put your knives and your cutting boards in the same area so that you can just reach up and grab it. You don't have to travel across the kitchen to get your knife and then across the kitchen to get your cutting board. Have all that stuff in one place. Pots and pans, cooking utensils, all need to be around the stove because that's where you're going to be using them. Baking stuff should all be in the same area. All your seasonings and stuff, we'll go over this later, but they all need to be in one organized fashion to make it easy. If it is easy, you will stick with it. Okay. Okay, let's go over the kitchen zones. So you have the refrigerator, the freezer, the pantry, and the countertop. Okay, so I lost my place. Okay, decisions about what to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks are mainly determined by what foods the grocery shopper or the nutrition gatekeeper brings into the house. Okay, so from now on, you need to be the nutritional gatekeeper of your kitchen zones. Okay, so first zone that we're going to talk about is the refrigerator. Okay. So there's top, bottom, and the salad drawer. Okay, so you're ready to eat foods such as the dairy products, leftovers, cooked meats, and prepared salads. That's where these belong. They should all be covered and kept in sealed containers to prevent contamination. So ready to eat foods are stored in the top section of the refrigerator away from the raw foods so that harmful bacteria cannot transfer from the raw food to the cooked food. Okay, bottom shelf is where your raw meat, poultry, and fish in sealed containers to keep them from touching or dripping onto other foods. Raw meats should always be stored at the bottom of the fridge to prevent cross-contamination. Okay, you have your salad drawers at the bottom. Fruit, veggies, and salad stuff should be down here. Make sure that your fruit and veggies and salads are wrapped to promote air circulation in reusable produce bags. I'll show you those next. For delicate leafy greens, try wrapping them in a damp paper towel before storing them to prevent from drying out and to keep them fresher for longer. For herbs, you want to store them just like you would flowers. So you would cut off the bottoms and store them in a cup of water. You'll be surprised at how long parsley and cilantro will be good if you store them in some water, just like flowers. Okay, so stocking your refrigerator zone with a variety of nutrition foods. There are so many foods that you can store in here, both fruits, veggies, dairies, your ready to eat protein. If you like to have sliced meat for sandwiches or something like that, you have your prepared foods, your hummus, pickles, and then your condiments. So what you want to do as soon as you get home from grocery shopping is prep the items before actually putting them in the fridge. Okay, I like to do this because it really starts my day off on the right foot. It actually takes a couple steps out that I don't have to do every single time I pull produce out. So before I even store them, I wash them and I cut up my sturdy vegetables. So like your bell peppers, your broccoli, and cauliflower, I break them up. So one, they don't take up a lot of room if they're cut up. And two, they'll be ready for you to use instead of you having to add another step every single day when you're preparing your meals. Okay. Another thing I do is I wash and cut up my sturdy leafy greens like my kale and my collard greens. Okay. So I cut off the stem and I chop them up like they're ready to be put into a salad. And then I put them in a container and I get all the air out of it. And then store them that way. That way, all I got to do is grab them and throw them in the salad or grab them and put them in a stew or whatever. I don't have to add an extra step throughout the week. Okay. Next, you can even, as an option down here in the corner, you can even just throw in a tray of roasted veggies if you want a healthy, quick option to just grab something with the side of chicken breast or a steak to add those veggies to your meals. Super, super quick. It's one step and you have it stored and ready for the week. These are those produce bags that I was talking about in the previous slide. They're really awesome when trying to preserve your vegetables a little bit longer. Okay. So how long should you store certain vegetables? So once a week, I actually make it a habit to compost perishable foods that should no longer be eaten. Okay. A general rule of thumb for the refrigerator storage for cooked leftover is 4 days. Okay. So if you get to the end of the week and you still have leftovers, I would toss it. Okay. Especially if you get to Friday and you go grocery shopping on Saturday, I highly recommend just tossing everything either Saturday morning if it hasn't been eaten, or compost it if you're a gardener, because it's not really safe for you to eat. Also, good rule of thumb for poultry and ground meats, if it has not been consumed, is 1 to 2 days. Okay. So where should certain items be stored in the kitchen? So like I said before, keep raw meat, poultry, and seafood in containers or sealed plastic bags to prevent the juices from dripping or leaking onto other foods. Freeze them if you do not plan on eating them within a few days. So if you got chicken breast and you plan a dinner for your chicken breast on Thursday and you shopped on Saturday, I highly, highly recommend you put it right into the freezer as soon as you get home. Pull it out on Wednesday, set it in the fridge to defrost in the fridge, and then it'll be ready to go by the time Thursday comes around. Okay. So keep eggs in their original carton and store them in the main compartment of the fridge rather than the door. Do not store perishable foods in the door. You can store flours, flax meal, and condiments here. Okay. So the temperature of your fridge should stay 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Bacteria grows most rapidly between 40 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. Make sure that your doors to your fridge and your freezer stay closed and do not open them more than necessary. Okay. If your foods are held at a temperature higher than 40 degrees Fahrenheit for more than 2 hours, they should not be consumed. Okay. So specialized compartments that are at the bottom of your fridge, the sealed crisper drawers are the optimal way to store your fruits and veggies. Higher humidity is required for veggies, while fruits require lower humidity. Okay. And that's what those drawers are for. The meat drawer has an adjustable temp to maximize the storage time for meat and cheese, and directs cool into the drawer to keep them cooled and without freezing. Okay. So now we're moving on to the freezer zone. So I get asked a lot, which is more nutritious, fresh or frozen? The answer is actually both. So thanks to Clarence Frank Birdseye II, who invented the process of flash freezing, we're able to maintain the nutritional value. Okay. So flash freezing forms small ice crystals, which prevent the cell walls from bursting. So you not only preserve the nutritional value, but you also preserve the flavor, the quality, and the nutrients of the food that you're freezing, which is pretty awesome. Okay. So things that you can store in your freezer zone, you have your spinach, broccoli, onions, green beans, carrots. Reserve frozen veggies for soups and smoothies. So if you're planning on getting frozen veggies and defrosting them to use as a side, I wouldn't recommend it because they end up being kind of mushy. So I would recommend, if you are going to use frozen veggies or fruits, I'd preserve them for smoothies or for stews or soups. Okay, they're perfect for that. I always have berries in my freezer. So I like to do the mixed varieties so that I get a little bit of nutrition from everything. Pineapple, avocado is great because it goes bad so quickly. If you struggle with keeping bananas ripe in your house, banana is another thing that you can freeze and add them to smoothies. So Be mindful when purchasing frozen produce. Some packaged brands add extra ingredients. Okay. So, for example, if you purchase frozen broccoli, the only ingredient listed in the broccoli should be broccoli. Okay. Sometimes salt or other sauces might be added. Okay. We don't want that. We can add our own sauce so that we know exactly what goes into it. Okay. So, same goes with fruit. If you're purchasing raw or frozen strawberries, look for the only ingredient to be strawberries. Sometimes sugar is added to the frozen fruit to make it sweeter. Okay. So, some other stuff that can be frozen is your edamame, um, beans, salmon, chicken, turkey, ground, any of your protein. You have your leftover meals. So your soups, pancakes, waffles are really great at freezing that you can have later if you make too much of it. That's a great idea instead of it just going to waste, sitting in your fridge for too many days. Grains, quinoa, brown rice, sprouted grain breads. These are other options when it comes to freezing. So you can freeze your own produce. So if you have stuff that's about to go bad, you can freeze your own produce. So let me give you a tip on how to freeze it. So you lay it flat on a sheet tray and then freeze it that way. Then you transfer it to a bag or a container to store it in the freezer. This way, you prevent all the produce from clumping together and becoming mushy. Okay. Okay, moving on to the pantry. Okay, so when you're moving on to your pantry, there's 4 rules that you want to go by. So make sure that your food is visible. Make sure that the food is sealed properly. Keep pantry items in their designated zone. We'll go over that in a second. And then you can make it colorful and inviting. So there's really awesome things that you can find on Amazon. These are just black chalk marker labels, but there's a bunch of other really awesome ways that you can label your containers. I love glass because plastic tends to leak into your food, but get something that's uniform if you want to make it look nice. But I highly, highly recommend these really large jars of Masons. They're really, really awesome. Okay, so let's talk about how you're going to separate your pantry. Okay, so divide your pantry items into their own designated zones and make sure when you organize them that they stay organized. Okay, so don't just, as you're cooking, shove them in the pantry just to be done with it. You have to keep them organized in their designated zone so that the next time you go in to store your produce or grab something to cook, it's easy for you. You know exactly where to go. Okay, so in your, you can have your canned proteins, wet items, you have beans and grains, healthy oils and seasonings, you have your nuts and your seeds, your flavor boosters, which is going to be your herbs and your spices, your baking items, and then you have your teas in your coffee. Okay, so your canned animal proteins are going to be your salmon, sardines, mackerel, tuna, anchovies, chicken. Wet items, what could wet items be? You could have unsweetened almond, cashew, or hemp milk that you can see in these little cartons. You have coconut milk, which you can find in a can. And then you have your broths, your canned artichokes, chestnuts, hearts of palm, and then you have your tomato products as well. Okay, your beans and grains, you want all in one section. You have your canned beans, so black beans, chickpeas, kidney beans, navy beans, pinto beans. There's so many types of beans, lentils. And then you have your grains and grains products. So your rice, quinoa, millet, whatever you want to cook with, all of this should be in one area. Okay. And then you have your oils and vinaigrettes. I always store my oils and my vinegars over my stove because that's where I usually use them, is at my stove. So all your vinegars should be on one side and all your oils should be on the other side for easy, quick access. Okay. Then you have your nuts and your nut butters. Okay. So all of this should be in one area. So you have your nut butters with no salt and sugar, just nuts only, please. So you have your peanut, almond, cashew butter, peanut butter. Your seeds should be in the same area. Your chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, pepitas. If you've never heard of these before, don't worry. Come Thursday when we talk, we'll go over your meal plan and we'll discuss all of the new foods that you have no idea what you're eating. Okay. But don't worry, you'll be familiar with this in no time. And then in the same area, you want your raw nuts as well. So your almonds, walnuts, pecans, cashews, stuff like that. Okay. Your flavor boosters, these need to be refrigerated once open, but until they are opened, you can store them in the pantry. So you have your roasted peppers, really, really amazing for sauces. You have your olives, nutritional yeast, mustard, hot sauce, capers, pickles, all of those kind of things. Also your seasonings, your spices and your herbs. You got, I mean, there's black pepper, garlic powder, ginger, cinnamon, cayenne, paprika, or oregano, chili flakes, nutmeg, cloves, bay leaves. I'm sure you've used quite a few of these. There's so many different spices. And as you go throughout this 12 weeks, I'm going to try to introduce as many of them to you as I can, because spices and herbs are extremely good for you. They're very, very high in antioxidants. So I try to get as many spices and herbs in the body as possible. Okay. All your baking items need to be in one area as well. You got your flours, your baking soda, baking powder, your coconut flakes, anything that you could possibly be using for baking, vanilla extract, stuff like that needs to be in one area of your pantry. And then also finally should be your teas and your ground coffees. Okay, so final zone is your countertop. So we eat with our eyes first, right? So what you want is to have healthy options as soon as you walk into your kitchen, okay? And they need to be easily available. So the countertop is the first thing that you see, correct? A study from Cornell Food and Brand Lab found that people increased their fruit and veggie consumption almost threefold by moving produce from the refrigerator crisper drawer to the top shelf where it was visible, okay? So if you're going to have foods on your counter, these are the foods that you can have or that will ripen well on the counter. So you have your pineapple, your tomatoes, bananas, which you want to keep separate from everything, melons, avocado, and stone fruit. Like I said, once those avocados start to feel less firm, you want to move those to the fridge. Foods that keep well for several days at room temperature are your oranges or your clementines, those little baby oranges. You have apples, grapefruit, grapes. You can give them 2 days at room temperature. Otherwise, they need to stay in the fridge. Cherries and pomegranate. Okay. Okay, so now moving on to kitchen tools. We're going to classify kitchen tools. So there's essential, useful, and unique. Okay, so essential tools are the ones that you use every single day. So let's think about it. What are some tools in your kitchen that you absolutely use every day? For me, it's my pressure cooker. I use it literally every single day. Okay, so you want these.
Oh, Shayla, that's sweetie.
Okay, son, I'm doing. Thank you. I'm doing this. I'm recording myself and people are going to be watching it. So now I have to go in and edit the video.
What does edit mean?
I have to just go, please. Please don't come in here and talk to me again. I love you, but please leave me alone. Okay, so now we're going to classify kitchen tools. Okay, so essential, useful, and unique. So essential is something that you use every single day. So let's think about it. What is something in your kitchen that you absolutely use every single day? There's a couple that come to my mind. I use my pressure cooker literally every day for everything possible. I also use my blender every day. These are the two things that stay on my counter all the time. Okay, you need to keep these essential tools in the most convenient place in your kitchen. Okay, you need to have them easily available. Okay, next is your useful tools. Okay, something that you use probably every month. Okay, you use it monthly, maybe once every 2 weeks. These need to be in a secondary location. They don't need to be on your countertop. Some kind of location that is convenient for you to grab, but isn't a pain in the butt to get out. Okay, a unique tool is something that you rarely use and you only use it for a specific task. Like for me, I rarely bake, so I rarely use my stand mixer, but I do use it for special occasions like baking cookies for holidays or something like that. So it is stored somewhere in a remote place that is not going to be in the way. Okay, if my stand mixer was on my counter all times and I never used it, it would be in the way and it would drive me crazy having to go around it. Okay. Now, a tip, if there is a tool in your kitchen that you have not used for more than a year, you're not going to use it. Okay. Donate it to somebody, give it away, sell it, have a garage sale. Okay. Okay. Let's go over the different tools and what they do really quickly. And then we'll go on to the next point. Okay. So tools that cut, you have your knives, and then so different types of knives that you have. You have your chef knife. So the chef knife is the most important knife to have in your kitchen. It's a wide blade between 6 to 10 inches, and you use primarily for chopping. This is the blade that I use for all of my produce. Okay. Paring knife, you don't use as often. It's a shorter blade that you're going to use for cutting little tiny produce, where the chef knife could get in the way. So peeling onions, coring tomatoes, or trimming vegetables. I actually use it if I need to cut cherry tomatoes or grapes in half. I'll use a paring knife for that. Otherwise, it's not an essential tool for me. So how do you store knives? Okay. This awesome little block here, I recommend a countertop knife block. A knife block sits on your counter, makes it easily accessible, which is what you want for your knives. And please be sure that the knives are dry before storing them in this thing, because if they're wet and they go in this wood block, mildew will happen and you'll contaminate your knives, and you don't want that. Okay, so drawer knife blocks are also another way to store your knives. Really awesome way to keep knives off your counter. I really don't like a lot of counter stuff on my counter, so I really like the drawer knife block. Same concept, but it's tucked away and it's not on your shelf, so it opens up some space on your counter. Okay, so a dull knife is more dangerous than a sharp knife. So make it a habit to sharpen your knife at least monthly, and a handheld sharpener does the trick, or you can use this electric one that you see here, and then be sure to rinse it off after you're done sharpening it. Okay, so a tip on cleaning: dishwasher detergent is super abrasive, and along with banging around that happens in the wash cycle, I wouldn't recommend washing your knives in the dishwasher. It dulls your knife really quickly. So always just wash your knives with soapy water and with dish soap and warm water, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so vegetable peelers, this is another essential tool for me. I use it almost every day. Really, really important for getting especially those thick-skinned veggies like your squash, sweet potato. I eat sweet potato on the weekly, so I definitely use it. I also use it for carrots, beets, stuff like that. Okay, kitchen shears I don't really use, but I always have scissors on hand to open up packages for my veggies and fruits. But a lot of people like to use these for fresh herbs and leafy greens, dried fruit, canned tomatoes, sun-dried tomatoes, broccoli, and cauliflower florets. So if you like them, absolutely use them. Okay, and then you have your microplane right there in the center. This is great for zesting citrus. So I really like to elevate flavors of dishes by adding lemon or orange zest. So if that's something that you want to try, I highly, highly recommend a microplane. It's also really useful for grating root produce. So you have your ginger, turmeric, garlic, and then also dark chocolate if you wanted to add a little zinc to your um, oats in the morning. Okay. All right, so the next one over is quantify. So all your measuring tools. So you have your thermometer, which I highly recommend for your meat, cooking meat. I always like to make sure that it's cooked through enough. You have your dry measuring spoons, and then you have your liquid measuring cups, and then you have your measuring spoons here. Okay. Okay. Stuff, tools that separate. So here is a very, very awesome tool that you can use. It's called a salad spinner. You can put your, once you actually rinse your produce or your greens, you can put them in there and it spins and it gets rid of all of the water. That way you can store it. So you can also use them for herbs. You can use them to drain rinsed beans. You can use them to drain rinsed berries and stuff like broccoli after you cut the florets out. Okay, so you have your fine sieve right next to it. This is really useful tool that I have in my kitchen as well. Really awesome for draining liquids from solids, refines the textures of sauces, or just sifting dry ingredients as well for baking. Let's see. Small and large colanders are very useful as well for your pastas, your vegetables, rinsing stuff off. A slotted spoon is very useful as well for retrieving solids from a cooking liquid while preserving the liquid in the pot. It's particularly used for serving stews so that you can have control of the amount of liquid that ends up on the plate. Okay. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen all of the tools that mix and spread. So we have a whisk, a silicone spatula, a wooden spatula. So why would you use a wooden spatula versus a metal one? So wooden spoons are actually very useful because they will not heat to scalding temperatures. Also, they don't chemically react to acidic foods or scratch pots and bowls like their metal counterparts do. Also, they don't melt, leach chemicals, or add strained taste to hot food as plastic spoons might. So I recommend either wooden or silicone spoons for cooking hot food. Okay. Then you have your stackable mixing bowls. These are life-saving. If you have small to large mixing bowls, it makes it just so much easier to prep meals, especially if you have meals with a lot of ingredients. It's just easy to separate everything, throw them in the pot when you're ready, and then be done. Okay, so mixing bowls is something that I highly, highly recommend having in your kitchen. I don't have a mortar and pestle, but they're pretty awesome for crushing nuts, garlic, ginger, chilies, or if you wanted to get whole spices and ground them up yourself into powders. Oh man, that's the best way to get them. Just ground them yourself. They stay fresher longer that way. Okay, tools that open and contain. So you have your can opener, and here is your, this is awesome thing to have on hand, a vacuum sealer for your bags if you really wanted to save money and prevent unnecessary spoilage of food. This is the way to go. If you're going to buy animal products like salmon in bulk, this is a great way to store them in the freezer. If you like to shop at Costco or Sam's or any of those big wholesale stores and you have a huge sale, definitely buy in bulk and store it this way. They're not even that expensive, so it pays for itself in the food spoilage money that you save. Okay, I highly recommend getting glass containers with lids. You will probably more likely need 8, 16, and 32 ounces. Really great for storing leftovers and definitely preferred over plastic. They're easier to clean. They do not absorb food odor or color, and they're environmentally friendly. And they're very easy to use for reheating your leftovers. So I highly recommend getting a stack of those as well. Ziploc baggies. Even though I'm not a huge fan of plastic, they do come in handy sometimes when you're on the go, It's great for portion control if you're trying to do that, and they're great for kids if you're trying to do to-go lunch or snacks for them. And just a tip, Ziploc bags can be washed and dried for reuse. Okay. And then you have your tools that move. So you have your chef's fork, your tongs. These are silicone ones, which I highly recommend. Then you have your ladle, plastic bowl scrapers, and then your slotted spoon. Pots and pans. So saucepans and stock pots. Having a few in various sizes is very helpful for cooking small and large batches of recipes, especially if you're wanting to meal prep all in one day. Having different types of saucepans and stock pots is really essential for saving time. Okay, saute pan, same thing. These saute pans come in small to extra large. They're really awesome for vegetables. So many dishes are actually started by sauteing aromatics like garlic and onion, right? Sauteing browns of vegetables, which enhances the flavor of the dish. I use a saute pan literally every day. I use a saute pan more often than I use stock pots for stews and stuff. Okay. Then you have a wok and a sauteur. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Sauteur. Okay, that's used for sauces and reductions. Okay. All right. So cleaning tips, avoid soaking your pan if you can. This is a cast iron wok. So if you have a cast iron pan of any sort, as the iron in some tap water can, it can rust your pans, use a scrubbing pad and regular washer after using your pot. And then you can stick stainless steel in the dishwasher, but if you want to get rid of stains, you'll have to do so by hand. Okay. Next. Okay, now we have baking and roasting. So what's the difference between baking and roasting? So both are actually really great, healthy cooking techniques. Excuse me. So baking generally doesn't require that you add fat to the food. So besides breads and desserts, you can bake seafood, poultry, lean meat, vegetables, and fruits. For baking, place food in a pan or a dish, covered or uncovered. Roasting, like baking, but typically at higher temperatures, roasting uses an oven's dry heat to cook the food. You can roast food such on a baking sheet or in a roasting pan. So for poultry, seafood, and meat, you can place in a rack inside the roasting pan so that the fat in the food can drip away during cooking. So to maintain the moisture, cook foods until they reach a safe internal temperature, which is what that meat thermometer comes into play, but don't overcook them. So baking and roasting tools, you have your sheet pans, you have your roasting pan with the trivet, so that little tray to reduce your fat in your meats. And then you have a clear glass pie plate and also a glass loaf pan. So a tip, try to use pre-cut parchment paper sheets for easy cleanup. Skip the foil. You don't want the aluminum, and parchment paper is also nonstick. Okay. So these are considered non-essential, but they're incredibly useful. Like I said, these two of these things on here I use on almost a daily basis. So with a blender and the Instant Pot, but that's me. Everybody's lifestyle is different. Some people use their stand mixer every day, and some people use a food processor every day. But these are all in my kitchen. They are very useful when the time comes that I need to use them. So I recommend also getting these in your kitchen to really elevate what cooking techniques and types of recipes that you can use in your kitchen. Okay, makes a huge difference. Okay, so when it comes to preparing a meal, you want to have both a prep area and a cook area. Okay. So in order to make prepping a breeze, you want to do what they say in French is mise en place. I always say that wrong. Mise en place. What that means is you need to have all your ingredients measured, cut, sliced, grated, whatever, before you actually start cooking. Okay. So pans are prepared, mixing bowls, tools, and equipment are all set out. It is a technique used by chefs to assemble meals quickly and effortlessly. And if you want to save time and stress in the kitchen, I highly recommend adapting, not adapting, adopting this habit in the kitchen. Okay. So when you're starting, say for instance, a dinner for your family, get all of the ingredients out on your counter. Get all of your pots that you're going to use. Get all of your tools, your knives, your spoons, spatulas. And then before you even start cooking anything, cut everything that needs to be cut, prep everything that needs to be prepped, start the oven. And then once you're ready to go, then you can start. Okay. So set up your cutting board. So you're going to prep bowls. This helps avoid clutter and mess as well. Fill your prep bowls. This is why I said have multiple mixing bowls as well. Okay. So fill all of those mixing bowls with all of your prepped ingredients. Okay. So all you got to do is throw them in wherever they need to be thrown in. Also, another thing to have on hand is a scrap bowl for trash. Okay. This will help prevent working at a cluttered prep station, which can often be very stressful, at least for me. Okay. This is seemingly insignificant addition to your prep space, but it's the difference between chaos and efficiency. Okay. Now, when it comes to creating healthy habits, you want things to be easy. Okay. So if you are efficient in the kitchen, it is more likely that you're going to be motivated to keep cooking fresh meals. Okay. And don't forget all your oils and your seasonings and all that stuff that need to be set out as well. Okay. Okay. So that concludes building a healthy kitchen for today. So if you have any questions about what we went over, please don't hesitate to message me. You can reach me by Messenger on Facebook. You can reach me by email. So please be sure to reach out to me when you can. I hope you have a fabulous day. Thank you. I will see you on Thursday.